crafty friends, it's Tina from the Scrappin Rabbit blog, and I've got a project share for you today as well as a process video, and it is for a St. Patrick's Day treat challenge that is happening with Jaded Blossom. And so I chose to use this adorable little puppy dress-up stamp set as well as a sentiment from this Go Green stamp set. So let me go ahead and share with you what I made. So I made this adorable little gift bag, and I think it turned out so stinking cute. I am in love with this little puppy, and I had so much fun coloring him up with my Copics. And I've got a little sparkle on there, and I think that he's just so cute. Of course, it is the year of the dog, so I plan on making lots of projects with little dogs because I love my doggies, and I think that they're a lot of fun. So this little gift bag is filled with some chocolates and a really cute pair of St. Patrick's Day socks. And so let me go ahead and share with you how I made this and how I colored up this little pup. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp my image using my stamp tool. So I'm going to start off by stamping the hat. I'm using the Long Fawn ink and some Nina 80-pound cover cardstock. I did stamp it on a Post-it to make a little mask because I'm going to be adding the little dog stamp and I don't want his ears to go over the hat. I'm lining up the little pup stamp and I'm just trying to center him to figure out where I want him to be underneath the hat. So I'm going to go ahead and ink him up. And I like the stamp tool because you don't have to worry too much about how much ink you have the first time because you can go ahead and stamp it again. So once I have my image stamped, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at it, and now I'm going to doodle the areas that didn't get covered and to make him well-rounded so he's nice dressed up in that little hat. I'm also going to add a couple lines there by his nose to help me figure out where I want to do the differentiations in the color. For the Copics, I'm going to start off with my E42, and I'm just going to do strokes designating how the hairline is going to go. And I do like to start off with a light color just to kind of map it out so that I could visualize how it's going to turn out. I'm going in with the E44 right above the little nose. I want there to be a little bit of darkness right there so that it looks like the nose is coming forward, and so you can do that by shading. I always study the hairlines on my animals as well as how the light hits with my kids' hair to try to help me when I go to color these images. I'm using that E41 to just kind of buff it out a little bit. I do want there to be a little lightness in the front of his face. So now that I know how I'm going to color it, I go in with that E47 to add some more depth. I blend it out with the E44. And I do like this color combo for animal fur. I buff it out a little bit with the E42, and I've never colored him in the browns, so this is the first time with this combination. So it does take me a little longer the first time I color something just to kind of map it out and to figure out how I want him to look. I like there to be a little bit of darkness around the eyes. I think that that helps the eyes pop a little bit. The same thing would go as if you added lightness around the eyes. It's just a matter of preference. For now, I'm doing darker around his eyes and just kind of going in the same direction for the fur. With the E47, I'm going to go in to cover that little gap between his little hat because that's going to be the little shadow, so it looks like his hat is coming up over his head. I blend it out with the E44 and then again with the E43, going from dark to light, and then that helps the hat pop a little bit more. And then I'm going to blend that out again with my lightest colors as I'm still trying to figure out. The great thing with the Copics is that the colors layer beautifully and you can get the dimension that you want. I just love how the Copics blend. Going back in with the dark color and to give it a little bit more of a definitive look. And then I'll blend out the harsh line with the E44. I'm going to add some shadows right where the ears are so that they look like they're propped up coming forward, and I'll buff it out a little bit with the E43. For the ears, I'm going to go in with the lightest color, the E42, or the E41, I'm sorry, and then just to kind of give me some ideas of how I want the hair to look. And then I'm going to go in with the E42, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm doing the hair in the same direction on both ears. Going in with the E47 to give it some definitive lines, and then I'll blend that out with the E44. And then I'll go ahead and use the E43. So just going from dark to light, blending it out to get rid of any of the harsh lines. And then with the lightest, the E42. And blend it out a little bit more. I'm just trying to make it look like that it's hair, and to make it look a little on the fluffy side with some dimension with the shading. And then sometimes it helps to go back in with that darker color just to give it a little bit more definition. And then again blend it out so that so it's not too harsh, but then giving that contrast so that you have that nice dark to light, so it looks like there's little highlights in the hair. I just think he's so cute. I really enjoyed coloring this pup. So I'm going to go in over the edges of his face where it meets the snout so that there's more dimension there, so that it looks like that front part of his face is coming forward. And then I just go ahead and blend that out. I'm going to add some more color to his face, and doing it with strokes to make him look like he has fluffy hair. And then I'm going to blend it out with the E41. I'm going to go back in with an E79 just to really make those shadows pop a little bit more. I wanted a darker color because I felt like I could get it to look a little bit more like it was coming forward. For his little muzzle, I'm going to start with the E42, and I'm going to outline. Originally I was thinking that it would be white, and so I was going to just do some light brown around the edges to define the outer part of his muzzle. So I start with the E42, and then I'm going to blend it out with the E41. Still doing little strokes to make him look fluffy, not just coloring it in, because if you just color it in, it tends to look a little bit more flat. And then I'm going to take my 0 and blend out those lines. And that looks cute if you just want to leave it like that. I wanted to go ahead and add some more color, so I went back in with the E41, and then I'm adding some cheeks with the R20. And then I like to blend out the R20 with the R30. It's a little bit lighter. And then I'll go ahead and use the lightest E41 to go right over that, and then kind of fill in that little muzzle area. And then blend out any of the harsh lines. With my Memento, I have a Memento ink, and so I'm going to just use that pen to color in his little nose, and I'm going to leave a little center spot because I want there to be a little bit of shine on his nose. For the tongue, I'm going to use the red 05 and the 12, and then I'm going to work on his body using the same colors that I used on the face, and I'm just trying to map out where I want the shadows to be and where the lighter areas are going to be. I'm trying to figure out if I wanted to do contrasting colors on his body. And then I just decide that his body is going to be the same color as his face, but I'm going to leave his paws lighter than the rest. And so I'm just coloring the dark, mapping it out again with my lighter color, and then adding some shading with the darker color. This is the E44 going around the bottom of his feet and in the areas that are behind. Blending it out with the E43, coming up around the sides. His body's kind of little, so you don't need as much detail, but I'm still trying to make it look like his feet are forward, and so I'm really working on my shading skills, trying to figure that out, adding more shadow and dimension. So I blend his little legs out and then his back, and then I am going to go back in around to add another layer of color, except for his little paws, which I want to keep whiter. Going in with the tail, I'm going to have the dark on the bottom going up to a lighter color, blending it out with the E42. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that R30 to the paws to give it a little bit of a pinky tone. I'll blend it out with the E41 just to make it a little bit different. So I wanted to fill in those little white spaces on his muzzle, so I took a light E color, which is the E50, to go in to fill that out, and then I felt like that looked a lot better. I'm going to go in with that E79, just like I did for the shadows on the face, and go in there to add some deeper color to really try to make those paws come forward. And then I blend it out with the 47 and then the 44. It's a lot of fun to color and to see how your little image starts to really pop on the page. And I really like these Jaded Blossom stamps because they are larger in size so that you can experiment a lot more. When they're really tiny images, you just kind of need to just color them. They don't need so many layers. For the leprechaun hat, I'm going to start out with the lightest color just to kind of map out where my highlights are. I'll go in with the medium color, making some strokes towards the center and blending it out with the lightest. Then I'm going to come in with the 17 to add the main color of the hat. And it doesn't matter if you're coloring everything in fully because you're going to be blending. And so I just do little strokes because I know I'm going to be going back in with another layer of the lighter color to blend it out. This one is the G29, and I think that it helps make a nice little deeper contrast color. And then I'm going to just blend towards the center, leaving the highlight so that the light is hitting him from the front. And I just blend out the harshness of that darker color. I'm going to be trying to buy more Copics this year. I just love when you have several colors to blend out. I really think that it makes your image pop just so much more. So I typically love to blend with 4 different colors, where before when I started out it was 3, and I think that that 4th color just really adds a huge difference. So there's the green on his hat, and so now I'm going to go in with the grays to do the buckle area. So I'll start out with my lightest just to kind of map it out, going with my medium, and it's such a small area, so I'm just going to use the 3 colors, going in with the darkest, the N7 from the outside, and then blend it in towards the center. I think that the grays are great to invest in, and I have, I think, about 5 colors of each of the grays right now, maybe 6. I just buy them little by little because they are pricey. So I'm going to get the inside of that buckle, and I'm going to make that color a little bit deeper so that it looks like it's sitting back. It'll help when I do the gold buckle, make it look like it's popping forward. So for the buckle, I'm going to go Y11 for the lightest color, and then the medium will be the Y13, the Y15, and then my deep will be the Y28. And I'm just going in very like little dots with that Y15. I don't want to touch the black because I don't want to smear it. Even though it's not a true black, it's still dark enough that it will smudge if you hit it with the lighter color. So I'm going to blend that Y28 out with the Y15, and then again going from dark to light towards the center of that highlight area. I'm going to go ahead and use the same colors to do his little tag, to make his little tag pop out with the gold. And I'll go from bottom up, dark to light, and then add a little bit more of that dark just to make it contrast a little bit better. For the collar, I'm going to use the same greens that I used for the leprechaun hat. I'm going to use 3 colors, the 17, the 13, and the Y11. Now I'm going to use my white gel pen to add some little dots over the cheeks and the nose. I cut out this little basket, or this little bag, with my Cricut, and it is from the Anna's Seasonal Soirees. I'm using some Jaded Blossom dies to add layers to the front. The first layer is from the scalloped rectangle dies, and then now I'm going to add a rectangle layer to the top of that. I chose some pretty plaid rainbow paper from Lawn Fawn, and that's going to help my image to pop a little bit more and give it a little more color to offset all the green. I'm going to add some sparkle to that buckle with my Spectrum Noir sparkle marker, and you have to be careful when you use this because it will blend out your Copic, so I just kind of dot it on. I'm going to fussy cut my image out since I just have the one, and I'm using a sentiment from the Jaded Blossom Go Green stamp set, and I'm going to put it on a layer from the card mat dies. I'm going to run that through my Big Shot. And for sentiments, I generally like to stamp on the white paper because the pattern paper, typically it's hard to get a nice sentiment stamped on pattern paper. So I will usually use the white, and I'm going to go ahead and use the VersaFine so that I can emboss it. And I'm using some clear embossing powder, and I'll heat up my heat tool for a few seconds before I go ahead and melt that sentiment. And it makes the image, or it makes the sentiment really pop when you have that embossing. I'm going to go ahead and fold over the score lines. The Cricut Explorer will add those. They're not very deep score lines, and I am using Cricut cardstock, so you have to use your fingers to just kind of find that line and to bend carefully and then go over it with your bone folder. And so I'm just going to find all the score lines, go over them all. That way I can have an idea of how my little treat bag is going to look when it's finished, and then that way I'll know where to use the adhesive tape. And so I'm just going over all of those score lines right now, getting them folded. So once I have an idea of how my little bag is going to be, I'll go ahead and add some double-sided adhesive tape. I'm using the one that's from my local scrapbooking store called Scrapbooking Made Simple, and it's really strong, and it's more affordable than the Sequang one. And so I'm going to add some tape to the little flaps, the outside of the side flap, and then the inside of the largest flap, which is going to fold underneath. I'm going to remove that tape and go ahead to start to put my little treat bag together. But before I complete it, I'm going to go ahead and add the layers before I fold it up because it's easier to glue the layers down while it's still flat. I'm going to use my ATG gun to go ahead and tape those layers on there. And for my little sentiment and for the little pup, I'm going to use some double-sided foam to give it a little dimension. And I can't remember where I bought this foam tape, but sometimes I can find it at Big Lots. I try to get it as cheap as possible. I'm going to use my ATG gun to go ahead and put that bottom layer onto the front of my little treat bag. And then I'll go ahead and adhere the sentiment and the little pup. Once I have those on, I'll be able to complete the bag. you go. So for the bag, I'm going to go ahead and undo the tape for those inside flaps, and then I'll go ahead and push down the bottom. It's always good if you can reach in there to push down from the inside just to make sure that all that tape is sticking down. I found these really cute little socks at the Dollar Tree, and so they fit perfectly. I'm going to use some tissue paper to make it look like a little gift bag. I'm going to wrap those little socks up in there and stick it in there. I don't want too much tissue paper because then it gets too wrinkly. So I'll go ahead and trim it. And there you go. I have the little socks, and I'm going to add some chocolate because you can't give a little gift out to a crafty friend without having a little bit of chocolate in there. I found these green kisses at Walmart. Nobody has St. Patty's candy out yet, so I found the green kisses. And that is it. I'm going to add some more because you can really fit a lot more in this bag. So that is my finished project for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, everybody, happy crafting and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.